how much does money actually influence our happiness? And that's actually a pretty complicated question to answer. The kind of the conventional wisdom is, oh, you can't buy happiness, right?
Yeah.
And well, that's true. You can't buy happiness, but you can buy a lot of things that might resemble happiness, or at least take away a lot of misery, right?
Yeah.
There's been all sorts of research that's gone into this, especially in the last about 20 years or so. Tons and tons of research went into, what's the effect of earning more money on your happiness, or losing money, or, global GDP or your country's GDP on happiness. All of those things have been studied to death. And there was never really much of a consensus up until very recently. And I think we're forming more of a consensus around it. So a lot of people have probably heard this idea that, in the United States anyway, if you're making, you need to make at least $75,000 a year to gain some level of baseline fulfillment or happiness. And then anything beyond that, it's not, it doesn't have a whole lot of effect.
Really diminishing returns. And
right?
The conventional wisdom for 20 years was anything past middle class income was diminishing returns. And then it was past 100K was basically no returns. But that's changed.
Yes.
Just in the last 5 or 10 years, they've actually discovered that money does correlate to happiness as far as they've measured it, but it just levels off dramatically.
Yeah, there's a little more nuance to it now, what they found. So yeah, for a long time, there were kind of these two warring camps even. That, oh no, the more money you make, it just keeps going and going. And a lot of people are like, that doesn't seem quite right. And then there was this other camp saying, no, actually, it's kind of shit after 75,000 to 100,000. Then you just don't get a whole lot out of that, right? What they actually found, this is actually 2023, was this study that came out. So it was pretty recent, less than 2 years ago. And it was from Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize-winner of a psychologist, and Matthew Killingsworth. They had what they called an adversarial collaboration on this study. And what they found was that there's these different cohorts, and they respond differently to money. So you have one cohort, which is what they call just kind of, they don't call it this, but I'll call them the miserable people, right? And yeah, they respond a little bit to money up to that 75,000 to 100,000 mark. And in this study since 2023, it was about 100,000. They respond, they do gain some life satisfaction and even affective gains up to that mark. And then past that, they're just no amount of money is going to make them any happier, okay? Then you have kind of what the conventional wisdom found, which was, you do gain up to that level too, and then you get a little bit kind of incremental small increases after that, fine. But then they have also found this third group where they're just happy no matter what. You give them money, great. You give them more money, even better. More money, and they just can't be satiated. They're like, yeah, I love it, keep it coming. And they just get happier and happier and happier. So there's this perpetually unhappy cohort, and then this perpetually happy cohort, and the people in the middle is what they found. So it kind of depends on your relationship with kind of your baseline happiness, and also your relationship with money, how it influences.
I just think that's fascinating.
And it's a fascinating finding that they found. And it kind of resolved, like I said, a big nerd debate that they had for over a decade. This was a 15-year kind of back and forth
beef.
going. Yeah.
Psychologist beef.
Psychologist beef is a big nerd war, like I said. Yeah. I would say that for the most part, for most people, money does have a diminishing return. Yes. Okay. I would put myself in this camp for sure.
And I do believe that even the people that do continue to increase happiness from money, it's a logarithmic curve.
It still is, but it's a steeper one than the others. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, it is a lot. So it's going from 100K to $1 million is the equivalent of going 50K to 100K in terms of happiness or whatever. So it's
for the most part, that's what they find.
Yeah. Yeah. Those numbers are not, I just made those numbers up, but that's roughly what the proportionality looks like.
Is that your experience, I think, too?
I generally, yeah. I would say, once, getting the six figures feels a lot better than 5 figures. And then getting the 7 definitely feels better than 6, but then it's at some point you just kind of stop caring. What I've noticed just anecdotally, or both with myself and then just a lot of very wealthy friends, and I guess this kind of maps to what you're saying, is everybody seems to kind of have a number that once they hit that number, they just kind of check out. Yep. I hit a number, I don't know, pretty quickly after my book blew up. That I was like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I'll take if you want to give me more, I'll take it. But like, I'm not really stressed. Like I don't really think about, how much money I'm making, how much money I want to make. And I've noticed that with other people, I have friends who, they hit 6 figures and they feel that way. They're like, okay, I'm good. And then I have friends who are at 8 figures and they're still not satisfied. Yeah. Right. So it does seem very personal on some level.
Yeah, I think it absolutely is. I mean, and obviously too, going back to the whole relative thing, the people around you, we kind of talked about your psychological immune system. It's the same kind of with money, is that you obviously are going to compare yourself to the people around you as well. So if you move into a fancier neighborhood, then you're going to feel less adequate, right? Or whatever it is. But same too, like with the country you live in is obviously going to make a huge difference. So, those numbers were thrown out, 75,000 to 100,000. That's like the United States, North America. If you're living in Latin America, it's closer to like 30 or 40,000 or less than that, maybe even in some areas too, depending on country. So it's relative. And then you get different kind of increases or decreases in your happiness based on the people around you as well.
So the TLDR is that money does make you happy, but it's complicated. Yeah. And it past a certain point, past like probably a decent middle class income, it's probably diminishing returns, and then B, it's also probably predicated on a bunch of other factors, like who you're surrounded by, where you live, your personality, all sorts of other things. Yeah.
Yeah. You've said this before too, or we've talked about this before anyway, where you said, money, sure, it's not going to buy you happiness, but it can really take away a lot of misery too. Yes. We'll get into that.
Which we'll come back to that.
Yeah. We'll keep coming back to that.
The buy away unhappy. That was actually something my dad told me, which I find very wise, but he told me, he said, money doesn't buy happiness. It buys away unhappiness. Yeah. Which that has definitely been my experience, is like most of the stuff, like in my life today, like, don't get me wrong, it's awesome having like nice stuff and a nice house and everything. But like past that, like past like having a nice house and a decent car and all that stuff, like really most of the satisfaction, it just comes away from like buying away friction, like not worrying about how much my Uber costs. And like something comes up and I miss a flight, like I'm not really sweating it. Yeah. It's not a big deal. Right. So it's just all the stress that doesn't happen is really actually what the value of it is.
No, for sure. For sure. Okay. We'll leave that at that and we'll keep moving here. Okay.